Hello, good Woch, everyone. Parshas Noach. Wow. So many meanings to just the word teva, ark, word. Sort of like in this world today, you go outside to hear the news, You go inside to protect yourself from the outside. But the truth is that there's nothing that's actually going outside that is new. It's as old as it ever was. Everything new happens inside. Torah Samachei, in a lot of different places. Renewal is in the teva, it's not outside the teva. That's a whole schmooze. All its own in its Hashem. We'll talk about it one time. Okay. And so, Bezat Hashem, we will start with Sipurey Baal ShemTov. One time, the Baal ShemTov, Baal Shem HaKodesh was a guest in Kilas Kodesh abroad. Now, that was a very, very famous Kehillah. There was a famous Klois with Talmid Chachamim. There were like a few past the muster of the Chachmei Broad. You were somebody. That's in the days of the Baal Shem Tov, the biggest from Donim, where belonged to the Klois in Broad. So anyhow, and obviously there were a lot of people around them, that supported them, many wealthy people. It was a very powerful Kehillah. So there was the time that in the very beginning of the Baal Shem Tov becoming known, and during that time, there were very few people that were actually, had the Muna in the Baal Shem Tov. So one of the rich people in Broad has decided in his heart that the people that hold of the Baal Shem Tov, that claim that the Baal Shem HaKadosh basically sees everything, because the Baal Shem Tov is so much part of the Elokus. The tzaddik is Shoresh HaBriah. The tzaddik is the root of the Bria. Everything in the Bria actually stems from the tzaddik. So the tzaddik knows what's going on in the Bria. Like you choose, you know what's going on with you. If you don't know, you can check it. But you're aware of what's going on with you. The tzaddik knows what's going on in the world. He felt that this was like blown out of proportion, to say the least. So, but he said, so I'm going to test him. And the test that he decided that wasn't Stama test, because there is a very famous klal that Kadosh Baruch Hu guards tzaddikim not to fall into eating any forbidden food. There's a special siyata d'shmaya for that. So this is how he's going to test him. Now, this gvir, this wealthy man, in his cellar, he had a cellar of very, very expensive wine. Like rich people like to have a wonderful cellar, right? And in one corner, he had a stock of non-kosher wine. That he would wait for the goyim. And he said to his servant, now go down to the basement, to the wine cellar, and take a bottle of wine from the corner where the Ein Nesach, the non-kosher wine is, and go to the Baal ShemTov and tell him that I sent the wine. It's a very expensive wine. And you should stand there and see him drinking, and then come back and let me know. That's what he did. The servant took the wine to the Baal Shem HaKadosh and stood, to see what will happen. He saw the Baal Shem HaKadosh open up the wine and drank from it. So immediately, the servant went back to his boss and testified that he himself saw the Baal Shem HaKadosh drinking a non-kosher wine. No. You can imagine what happened afterwards. The minute he heard that, the Gvir went and let everybody know Baal ShemTov drank non-kosher wine, Yein Nesach. No, until it went so far, until behind the chair of the Baal ShemTov, people were shushkening, were whispering. Baal ShemTov drank non-kosher wine. Baal ShemTov heard it and didn't say anything. After Birkas Hamazon, the Baal ShemTov sent a shliach to call the Gvir, the wealthy guy. And he came before him. And when the Gvir came, the Baal Shem Tov said, I heard that you put out a rumor on me in the entire town that I drank non-kosher wine. So the Gvir told the Baal Shem Tov, this is true. I sent you from my cellar a bottle of Yein Nesach, of non-kosher wine, to test you if you're going to drink. So the Baal Shem Tov asked him, did you take the wine from your cellar on yourself? So he says, no, I didn't take the wine by myself. I told my servant to take it, from the stash of the corner where the non-kosher wine is, and we'll give it to you to drink. So the Baal Shem Tov told him, why don't you call your servant to testify before you, before us, it is what he did. So the Gvir sent over, and they called the Mesharis, the servant, and he came over. So the Gvir asked the servant, which corner did you take the wine from? So he said, I took it from the corner that you told me to. And he explained, which corner where he took it from. And at that moment, that wealthy Gvir became very pale. He understood that the servant has made a mistake. And it took the kosher wine instead of the non-kosher wine. He started cursing around. He says, I told you to take it from the different corner. Why did you change? Why did you do differently than what I told you? So the servant swore that in his own ears, he heard the Gvir say to take from the corner where he took it from. So the Gvir went, from there in great shame. And that was the end of that particular machlekes. Let's have another shtickle, a gezinto, well done, mice of the Baal ShemTov. There was a very common thing for the Baal ShemTov to see Reb Chaikel, who was the Wasserträger. He was the one who drew the water from the well, and he would carry the water to bring to the houses. And he would pass by the besmet of the Baal ShemTov, schlepping the water. And every day, the Baal ShemTov would ask him, "How are you?" And he would say, "Baruch Hashem, Todah Lakel, Baruch Hashem, Dankot." One day, the Baal ShemTov asked him how he is. And Reb Chaikel gave a krechts. And he put the pails down. And he started complaining about how tough things were. And he says, "Hey, Rebbe, I have to tell you, things are not simple. The pails, in those times, the pails were made of wood, like barrels, like wine barrels. And the pails are becoming, are very heavy. And I'm becoming older, and I'm not as strong as I used to be, and and my bones hurt me, and I'm becoming weaker. I don't have a penny at home. Even my old boots, I can't afford to fix. And the kids, they demand their own. They need food, they need shoes, they need clothing. I don't know what to give them." And now they built some houses at the other side of town, which is on a hill. So now I have to schlep it up. So he finished, and he took the pails, and he went on working. A few days later, Reb Chaikel again went from the besmet of the Baal ShemTov. Baal ShemTov greets him. "I'm so happy to see you, Reb Chaikel. How are you today?" "How am I? What shall I tell you, Tyra Rebbe? Baruch Hashem, I'm doing so well. Chasdei Hashem. I have a lot of work, and I'm feeding my family. Baruch Hashem, I can feed them, I can clothe them, I can pay schar limud for the teachers. Not only this, but lately they built a few more houses the other side of town, the top of the hill. Baruch Hashem, so I have more clients. Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu does favors with me every which way I go." Talmidei Baal ShemTov were a little perplexed, what's going on here. So he said, but the pails of water are just as heavy as they are every single day. His boots, are as, run down as they were. So why a few days ago did Chaikel complain? Gave a whole laundry list of complaints. And today he is so happy with his lot, in such a good mood. Baal ShemTov smiled, and he told us, Talmidim, "You're right. Chaikel is the same poor person as he was always. And the pails are as heavy as they were always. Because this is what was decreed on him, Yishamayim, that he has to work hard for his parnasim. Like Chazal said, the mezainis of every person is being decreed on him, being decided in Rosh Hashanah. The same thing, it was decreed that he will be a Wasserträger, a water schlepper, all year long. But he still had the bechira to do the work happy and satisfied, or bitter and low. Now, the sound of the words of Haiku today wasn't the way it was 2 days ago. Did you see what he actually repeated again and again? Baruch Hashem, thank God, Chasdei Hashem. Today he lives in a recognition that everything is from Hashem's Baruch. That always there's what to be thankful for. So he looked for the good things to think about him about in his life. And when he found those good things to think about, immediately he felt better. We must know, continued the Baal Shem HaKadosh, everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even when things are tough, the situation is not simple. We have to search for the good things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. If we will focus on them, we will be to be happy in our heart and really be far happier. Ad kan Sipurey about ShemTov for tonight. Okay. So this is another story from Reb Uri or Iri Strelisker. The first Belzer Rebbe, the Sar Sholem of Belz, told the story. He was Mikurev to Reb Shlomo Lutzker, the Baal Divas Shlomo, and he also was a Talmud of the Choyze Kodesh from Lublin. And after they passed away, he didn't want to go to Alva Tzadikim, who was still alive. And once he came to Kilas Kodesh Bilkaman, and he stayed by Baal Chsanya, used to go to Rebbe Uri Strelisker. Now, the Baal Chsanya had a very important and very urgent question to the Strelisker. He needed an Eitz of Chachmei Ador. So he asked the Sar Sholem of Belz and asked him to go with him to Strelisk with Rebbe for the Eitzer. Now, the Belzer said to himself, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu has made this happen, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to happen, that I should go to the Rav of Strelisk. And he said, no problem. I will go with you to Strelisk. After some time, the Baal Chsanya came to him and says, I'm sorry, I have another favor to ask you. Would you mind going to Uri Strelisker on your own? I don't have the time to go to him. I must be busy here with my parnasa, and I simply cannot leave. Would you mind going to him and asking for me? I will give you all the money you need, for the road. No, the Sar Sholem Belz was amazed that the Baal Chsanya dared, to ask him to make him a shliach to Strelisk, because he already became famous as a Rebbe, he himself. And he behaved like a Rebbe. It was a big pella by him. But the Sar Sholem of Belz, because of his anova, he said, it must be, this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to do. He said he's willing to go. And he went. He went to Strelisk, and he came in the morning during the time of davening, and he went to daven in Besmedrash. And Strelisker was davening over there, and he stood close to the place of the Strelisker roof. And when it came to Shmoneh Esrei, the Sar Shalom Bez was weighing in his mind, is he allowed to stand there to daven Shmoneh Esrei? Because of the din in Shulchan Aruch, or Chayav, that a person is not allowed to stand behind his Rav. And so he was like, hemming and hawing, is the Strelisker considered to be his Rav? He just came to him to ask him a question, or not? Until he decided that he would go to the side, the way Shulchan Aruch says, that you should not stand behind the Rav. After davening, the Sar Shalom from Belz came to the Strelisker, to give him a shalom. And when he came to him, so the Strelisker looked at him and said, "What is this hemming and hawing in your mind? Am I like his Rebbe? He was not like his Rebbe." Still, the psak is there is like his Rebbe. In other words, you did right if you stepped aside. So the Sar Shalom Bez already realized the kedusha of the Rebbe Strelisker in his Ruach HaKodesh. Then he received him as his next Rebbe. And he also said that what time before Rebbe Strelisker passed away, he was Oilel Torah, and he saw before him the Parsha, and he saw the entire Parsha before him written with black fire, written on white fire. That was before the Ptira of Rebbe Strelisker. I don't know what this means, but I would assume that this was a thing that this is how he got the message in Shemaim that his Rebbe is going to pass away. Maybe that it's his time to become a Rebbe and start the Belz Chasidus. I don't know. And now, with your permission, let's get to Sichos Haran, Rabbeinu Kodesh, and take a quick look. 145. Unbelievably important Sicha, like all of them. Shediver Imi, when he spoke to me and he told me the way to turn Torahs into Tfilas, and it says in the Kutu Tanina Sima Chofei. And he told me that it's good for a person to write for himself these tefillos. And then I saw, says Reb Nosson, and I understood with his movements, with his holy movements, that this is an incredibly wondrous thing to do, to make tefillos out of the Torahs. And like he said, that there are unbelievable pleasure that is being given in a Shemaim. Another time he was speaking with another person, and he was craving very much that they will make tefillas out of the Torahs. He says, I really, really want that they will make from the Torahs, they make tefillas. But I don't know, who do you give it to? And once he showed me in one of a sefer that was by him, that was written not long before that time. It's called Yad Aktona, the small hand. And at the end, he explains a few inyanim in the Lashon of Tefillah, that he's speaking to Hashem Yisbarach. And he starts every single inyan with Elokai, Rebbeinu Shalom. And then he starts saying whatever he's saying. And he called me. Then it was Rabbeinu HaKadosh called Reb Nosson and ordered him to look inside and pointed to him. See that the language is being used is like a talking language. That this mechaber is speaking some of the inyonim and his drushim, which is Torah, to Hashem Yisborach HaNoshim of Tefillah. And he hinted to me his great desire to do this from his Heilige Torahs, to do from all the Torahs of the Tefillahs. Because that was Rabbeinu's way, to be merames and to hint of great and high inyonim by small little things, because it was very, very hard for Rabbeinu to explicitly explain his das, because there were so many judgments and so many obstacles and few more reasons. And that's why he hinted at things. He made like innuendos, he like pointed at things. So a person will understand from his own, if he will wish. And there was wondrous inyonim and fantastic inyonim with the way that the Rebbe behaved with me in quite a few different inyonim. It's impossible to actually tell them all. He also said that when you make tefillas on the terrace, that it causes tremendous pleasure above. Rabbeinu said as follows, that there has never, ever come up before him such pleasures, mimos olam, from the time that the world was created. And it is printed in Likutei Tefillas, and more that Rabbeinu was mechazik me in the Sicha Kedosha, that he spoke with me after he said the Torah Bereshis Lanekol Yisrael. That's the famous Torah that Rabbeinu eulogized both Rabbi Yitzchak Bedichera and himself, that we usually learn before Tisha B'Av. Likutei Haran Tinyana Samech Zayin. You know, there is, Reb Nosson says that the Biur Likutim, when it explains one of the klolim of Biur Likutim, is a very known principle which applies in Kabbalah, whereas any part of creation includes all the parts of creation in it. In other words, creation is working on a fractal principle. So if you have the let's say the basic elements of wind, fire, water, and earth. So in each and every one of them, in earth, there is water, there is fire, there is wind. And in wind, there is water, there is fire, and there is earth, and so forth and so on. And we all know from Kabbalah Arizal, the oldest spheres are combined from all the spheres. You have Chesed. Chesed has inside it Chesed the Chesed, Gvura the Chesed, Tiferes the Chesed, and so forth and so on. But nevertheless, even though every aspect includes in it all the other aspects, there is one overall inyan that combine them all. In other words, when you take chesed, and you have chesed the chesed, gvura the chesed, tiferet the chesed, they are all particles inside, but the overall theme over there is chesed. Same thing in gvura, okay? You have chesed the gvura, whatever it is, they're all parts of it, but the overall theme over there is gvura. The same thing is included in making tefillas from Torah, meaning there is also Torah of tefillah. There are certain inyanim that a person needs to know what is the Torah of tefillah, of how do you daven. I want to tell you, there's a friend of mine, a very, very dear friend of mine, who is going through a very, very tough time. And I had a conversation with him. It's a person that has known ups and downs, and he told me, to be totally honest with you, I'm sick and tired. I'm just too tired. I can't take it anymore. I just want it all to end. He said, and I find myself between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, he says, I wanted to finish. He wants life to end. On the other hand, he's afraid of what's happening on the other side. What is waiting for me on the other side? He says, I don't want to live and I don't want to die. So we had a long conversation about this, covering a lot of areas, but I told him, he doesn't feel like davening, he doesn't feel like this. So I said, if you're finding yourself in such a state that you can't daven, you can't learn, you can't do anything, so fine. So just wait. Wait for what? Just wait for Kodesh Baruch Hu. What do you mean? I said, I want to tell you, I want to teach you a certain Torah about tefillah. And that is that the person can chas v'chalila get to a situation where he doesn't want to daven, where he can't want to daven. He just can't. Not only that he doesn't want to daven, but he doesn't even want to think prayer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't even want to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help him. People can come to such situation. So I told him, I want to teach you something. When you find yourself in a place that damned if you do, damned if you don't want to daven for it, you don't want to ask for it, you want absolutely nothing from it, and you don't know what to do. So I want to tell you that in such a case, to look up, as it were, with your mind's eyes and shut your mind. Don't think anything. Don't ask for anything. Don't complain about anything. Just shut your mind completely. Looking up to Kodesh Baruch Hu with your mind, as it were, with your mind's mouth closed. This is also a gewaldige tza'aka and screaming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help. Not thinking anything, because you can't. You're too broken, you're too split, you're too conflicted, you don't know which way to go. Just look up, close your mouth, close your mind. Don't think anything. Just look up, not asking for anything, not clue, nothing. And I said this to my Rav, and I got a skama from him that this is 100% true. Now, the thing is, the good thing about this friend of mine, the fact that he's afraid of what's happening, what's waiting for him on the other side, means already that he's in a good place, no matter what happens to him. Just being afraid of what's happening on the other side already means that he's a good place. You can scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the last vestige of just looking up, saying nothing, thinking nothing. Zos teres at tefillah. Should make tefillahs for Torah, and the person should take whatever he's learning. You learn Shulchan Aruch, you learn Tzarech Ben Oslam, help me this mekayim, this halacha, and me remember this halacha. What is halacha? What do you make bracha on this? You make bracha on this. I'm learning Ilchas brachas. I'm telling this out. That all the springs are jumping out of my ears. It is so complicated. No mani say. There's no other choice except to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to beg HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to be mekayim this halacha. I want my heart to open in tefillah. And when you learn Torah, be mispal to be mekayim that Torah, and so forth and so on. So, being that tonight, or rather, after midnight, 2:00 in the morning is going to become 1:00 in the morning. And as we're falling back, Emetz Hashem coming Monday, all the shurim, Emetz Hashem, both in the rest of the shul and the online shurim, will take place between 8 and 9 instead of 9:00, between 9 and 10, take place between 8 and 9. I want to wish each and every one of you a gewaldige Woche and an unbelievable, healthy winter full of avodas Hashem and tefillah and Torah and everything good.